or from the testimony you're about to give is the truth and the penalty of law?
Yes, sir, I do.
Sergeant, can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Sergeant Brian Thacker with the Rio Rancho Police Department.
And how long have you been with Rio Rancho?
13 years.
And what is your assignment in Rio Rancho?
Currently, I'm assigned to the traffic division as the sergeant of that unit.
How long have you been sergeant?
About 6 years.
And what does sergeant mean? What kind of duties do you have?
It's basically the supervisor of the unit. I have I have 6 guys under me. Supervise our day-to-day activities, do evals, things like that.
And did you have to have any special training to become sergeant?
I did. I attended the 30-week academy, Bernalillo County Academy, and then since then I've had numerous in-house trainings, critical incident trainings, supervisor trainings, things like that.
Okay. And so were you sergeant at the time of the incident that we're here to discuss?
Yes, I was.
And what shift were you working on May 25th of 2015?
At that time I was working the weekday graveyard shift, which is from 8 p.m. to 6 in the morning.
And how did you come to learn of the incident that we're here to talk about?
We had just finished up briefing. I briefed my officers, and I heard a call over the radio of an officer down, an officer had been shot, which I didn't recognize the voice that came over the radio. At that point, they looked at Officer Sanchez, and we basically sprinted out of the building to our police cars and headed over there.
Okay, and where did you go exactly?
We went to the post office on Pine Tree off of Southern.
Okay, and when you arrived, what did you observe?
When I got on scene, I exited my patrol unit and observed Nigel laying in the roadway, at which point I ran over to him and began rendering aid to him.
Okay, rendering aid, what did you do?
I assisted with tourniqueting one of his legs that had that was bleeding, had a bullet hole in it, and just basically kind of remained there for a little while. And I was trying to do that as well as manage the scene at the same time. So, but my main focus was Nigel at that point.
Okay, so manage the scene. What does that mean?
Basically, when we have a crime scene, my job is to secure evidence, secure the crime scene, make sure nothing gets tampered with, things like that.
Okay, and your main focus was on Nigel.
Correct.
So, what happened after Nigel was taken from the scene?
Once he was taken from the scene, I basically started managing the scene. I assigned an officer to go to the hospital with the female, Mrs. Littles. I assigned Officer Elder to ride down to the hospital with Nigel. Basically started putting up crime scene tape, getting a perimeter set up, things like that, not letting anybody in, and then securing the evidence as well. I assigned an officer to secure the evidence as well that was in the roadway.
And what was going through your mind while you were doing all of this?
I was worried about my brother.
Okay, and by your brother you mean?
Nigel, yes.
So you were managing the scene, and how many officers do you think that you were managing at that time?
6 to 8, I believe. There's about 6 to 8 there that I can remember. I have 4 faces that I remember, and I'm sure there was more that were there.
Okay, and do you know where Officer Benner was taken to?
I believe it was UNM downtown.
Okay, and did anyone try to talk to you while you were on scene?
Miss Littles briefly. It was more like a shouting that she had been carjacked, and that was pretty much all the interaction I had with her.
Okay, so you didn't observe what happened with her?
No, I didn't.
Okay, and what did you do next?
Just like I said before, I maintained the crime scene and just kind of waited for relief to get there, meaning upper lieutenants and my chain of command kind of thing. I also started notifying my chain of command of what was going on, things like that.
Okay, and how long was it before someone else arrived?
I believe the first lieutenant that I saw on scene was Lieutenant Dennison, and he seemed like he was there within 5 minutes maybe. Okay. He was there pretty fast.
Were you getting updates about Officer Benner's condition?
I was. I received 2 phone calls from Officer Elder giving me kind of updates. I think one was when they were still on the way to the hospital. And then I got the phone call when he had passed.
And what were you doing with that information?
I basically gave it to the chain of command and let them know.
Okay.
And I also notified his direct supervisor.
All right. And at what point did you turn over your duties to someone else?
It was probably within an hour of what was going on.
And who did you turn that over to?
There were so many there. I don't know. Ultimately, Captain Bowie took over the scene, and that's who I remember running the scene mostly.
Okay, and Captain Bowie, who is he?
He's a captain with our department.
With Rio Rancho?
With Rio Rancho, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, you have a moment? I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Any cross?
Deputy, sir.
How you doing, sir? Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, so immediately upon your arrival, you had two primary duties. And the first one you were focused the most on was offering or rendering aid to Officer Benner, right?
That's correct.
And as, I guess, the commanding officer on the scene at the time, you also had to manage the scene, right?
That's correct.
But mostly your focus, rightly so, was on the officer who was down, right? Rendering
Initially,
aid
yes.
best you could.
Initially, yes.
And initially, that's where your focus was as you were trying to do your best to provide whatever care or comfort or service you can to your wounded comrade, Officer Benner, right?
Correct.
But then something caught your attention, right? A woman sitting on the curb caught your attention.
Correct, yes.
Because while you were offering this aid to your officer who was on the ground bleeding, this woman on the curb, who was later identified as Tabitha Littles, was yelling at you, wasn't she?
That's correct.
She was just sitting there on the curb yelling at you.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, she was.
She didn't try to get up to help. You didn't ever see her trying to offer assistance. You just saw her sitting on her rear end on the curb, did you not?
That's correct.
And she was yelling at you, trying to get your attention, directing you away from offering aid to your comrade, your friend who was bleeding to death on the ground, right?
She was talking to me, yes.
And she was kind of yelling at you that she'd been carjacked, right?
That's correct.
And not...
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
It's a statement by a party opponent, and it's not off the truth of the matter asserted. In fact, it's not true.
Your Honor, may we approach?
But there is no doubt about what you heard behind you that Miss Littles was telling you, correct?
That's correct. I do remember her saying.
Now, you've later become aware that there was a bolo based on what Ms. Littles had said regarding this carjacking, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so, so if I'm correct, please correct me if I'm wrong, but based on what Ms. Littles relayed to law enforcement, that she'd been carjacked, interest was taken away from her and placed someplace else on this Dodge Durango, correct?
I wouldn't say it was taken away from her, no, because I knew that she was in the vehicle, so she was a key part of it, so I
Okay.
would say no to that.
All right. Ultimately, she was transported to the hospital, right?
Yes,
Okay. By someone other than you. You actually assigned another officer to go to the hospital with her, right?
I did, yes.
Okay. So whatever she might have told that officer, that's something else for somebody else to tell us, right?
Yes,
Okay. And then you stayed on the scene as the commanding officer on the scene until the lieutenant got there and kind of took over as overall scene command, right?
that's correct.
Okay. Now, you've given a couple of pretrial interviews in this case, have you not?
I did.
Okay. And at one point in time, although you weren't asked today, but at one point in time you were asked about Officer Benner's weapon, and I think you testified that it was in the holster, right?
That's correct.
Okay. You also made some other observations on the scene, I believe, regarding his baton, and the baton was actually out, right?
Yes, I believe it was.
And you couldn't remember whether the snap, the safety strap, or the security strap was either buttoned or unbuttoned?
I couldn't know.
And somebody else perhaps took a photograph of that?
I don't know.
But your specific recollection was that the baton was out, laying near Officer Benner's body, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for your time, officer.
Yes, Your Honor, just quickly. Sergeant, do you know why the baton was out of the duty belt?
I didn't know.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor?
Is Sergeant that fact was subject to recall?
Not by the state, Your Honor.
Not by the defense, Your Honor.
Okay, Sergeant, you step down, you walk in the scene of the courtroom, and we review this case.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Steve, call your next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Aubrey Watson.
Mr. Watson, why don't you come up here, you're going to be taking a seat on that chair, but before you do, I need to swear you. Please raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth and the fealty of law?
Yes.
Can I take a seat? And then get close up to that microphone so everyone can hear you.
Hi. I'm sorry.
So make sure she has some water, Mr. Chavez.
And Your Honor, while we're doing that, could we get the easel and the diagram set up for her? You ready? Aubrey, tell the jury your first and last name.
Aubrey Watson,
Okay, and how do you spell Aubrey?
Aubre.
Aubrey, how old are you?
I'm 17,
When is your birthday?
May 7th.
May 7th. Okay, so how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have 2 sisters and 1 brother.
Do you go to school somewhere?
I'm homeschooled.
Okay, how's that?
It's good.
Do you get, so because you're homeschooled, do you get to play any sports?
I play at Rio Rancho High School.
Oh, okay. What do you play?
Basketball and track and field.
What, are you on the varsity?
Well, this year,
All right, so what grade are you in?
I'm a
Well,
senior.
I'm sorry?
I'm a senior this year.
Okay, so that would be varsity for the team's purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, not sure how that works. So, besides basketball and track, what else do you do for fun?
I like to cook or
You do?
can things.
Okay. Do you have brothers and sisters?
I do.
Can you tell us what their names are and how old they are?
My sister Najoni is 14. My brother Jonah Jr. is 7. And my little sister Davina Marie is 4 months old.
Oh, brand new baby.
Mm-hmm.
So, is it okay if I call you Aubrey?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Aubrey, do you have your driver's license?
Yes.
When did you get your driver's license?
November, I think 8th
Of what year?
of 2015.
Okay. Now, to get your driver's license, did you have to do some practice driving or turn
Yeah.
in some hours?
I had to do 30 hours for like driving on the road and like 20 or 10 on practicing the course that they have at the school that they did.
Okay. Did you ever do any of that practice driving with your dad?
Yes.
What's your dad's name?
Jonah.
Okay. Do you remember Memorial Day last year, 2015?
Yes.
Okay. And just to remind you, you have to say yes or no so the transcriptionist can take down what you're saying, okay?
Okay.
What were you doing that day? What did you do on that Memorial Day last year?
I don't think we really did anything. We just stayed home. And that night my dad asked me if we wanted to go get stuff for dessert.
And so, did you go?
Yes.
Where did you go? Where did you and your dad go?
To Albertsons.
And who was driving?
I was.
Was that part of your practice driving?
Yes.
Okay. How far is that Albertsons from where you guys live?
I don't know.
I mean, not exactly, but
It's very close to our
pretty
house.
close. So, about how long would you say it took you to drive there?
5 minutes,
Okay.
less.
So really close. When you drove into the parking lot, do you remember where you entered the parking lot?
Yes, we entered through Robin Road right there by the streetlight and into where it has the Dollar General side, the entrance there.
Aubrey, in front of you, you have there's a binder. Do you see that?
Yes.
Could you open the binder and look at exhibit 27 and 28? You pull up 27 first. I'm sorry, 28.
Like, is it like pages?
Yeah. In fact, I think I'm going to, let's go to exhibit 126 first. Let me show you. You see here there's an index kind of right here, and then the numbers are here. So like, let's see, 126 highway, 122, and we're going to go to 126, I believe. 126, the sticking. 126, can you see? All right. 6, 127, whoops, that's not it. 4, 25, 26. So this is 126, okay? Now, on exhibit 120, do you have that? I can't see. So on that picture, Aubrey, can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury if you saw that vantage point that night?
From, or like, did I look at it from that angle?
Yes.
I didn't.
Okay. Let me back you up for a second. So you guys went to Albertsons and you went into the Albertsons?
Yes.
Okay. Let's try this. Might be better. Let's see here. Let me bring up their chart, which is 392. You don't have to look at the. May the witness step down?
She may.
Could you step down, Aubrey? And come around here. Let's see here. This is, you press that, that's the laser pointer. And if you kind of stand to one side or the other so that,
Counsel, you may come to this side to see what she's pointing at.
you know, you guys can't see. Can you kind of come around just this way a little bit? Let me move this. How's that? Oops, good catch. Should be on the football team, or the baseball team. All right. So, using the laser pointer, can you show the jury where you entered the parking lot?
Over here.
Okay. And what is this road right here?
Pine Tree Road.
Pine Tree Road? Okay. So when you entered there, where did you go? Where did you park? Do you remember?
Oh, so when we take the path, I have to go all the way up here. And there was a parking over here, so I came and parked around here.
Okay. And for the record, you're pointing to by Arby's approximately?
Oh, I parked on probably this area.
Okay. So you're pointing kind of to the west of the Arby's a little bit, right? Northwest, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you parked there and then you guys went into Albertsons? And then what did you do?
And then got the stuff we needed and headed home.
Okay, you have to speak up a little bit.
We got the stuff we needed and headed home.
Okay. And then, well, where did you get into your car? Were you still the driver?
Yes.
Was it a van?
Yes.
Okay. Was there anybody else in the van besides you and your dad?
No.
So when you got into the van, can you tell us what direction your van was pointing?
No.
And could you see anything happening over by the Arby's?
When we were leaving, I could.
Okay. When you were leaving, so when you got back in your van after getting out of Albertsons?
I didn't notice anything.
I'm sorry, I can't hear. Speak up, please.
I didn't notice anything
When did you not notice anything?
when we were heading into our car.
Okay. So did something eventually catch your eye?
When we were exiting.
Okay, when you started to drive?
Yes.
Okay, what did you notice?
A police car pulling over the car.
Okay, can you point on use the little pointer there? Can you point where you saw the officer that had pulled over another car?
We were right here, and the police officer was pulling over the car down here.
Okay. And then you got into the vehicle, and did you start to drive off then?
Yes.
Okay. And when you started to drive off, what was happening with the officer in the car that was pulled over?
He was on the passenger side.
The officer?
Yes.
Okay.
Of the car that was pulled over, and he was looking into the windshield.
Now, did you have your windows down? Do you remember?
My side was.
So the driver's side. What about, well, let me ask you, could you hear any conversation going on between the officer and the occupants of the car that was pulled over?
No.
Okay. So what did you see happen next? Or what did you guys do next?
We turned left.
Can you show with the phone?
We went this way and started heading home, because I don't take this road here. Went through the light.
Okay. And then what's the next thing that you remember happening?
I had looked in my rearview mirror because the car
You're gonna have to speak up just a
I
little.
looked in my rear. First, I was driving, and then a car sped past me, and then I looked into my rearview mirror, and I saw lights, and it pulled over a little to the side, over here, in between the streets, there was like a mailbox, and the police officer's car went past me.
Okay. So the lights, are you talking about the lights on top of the police car?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember whether or not, did you hear any siren or anything like that?
I don't remember.
Okay. So when that car rushed by you, what did you do?
I just pulled over to the side and waited for the police officer to pass, and then I kept going.
Okay. Did you and your dad have any conversation when that car rushed back past you?
I said, I asked my dad, what do I do? And he said to just keep going.
Just keep going, okay. So, did you just keep going then?
Yes.
Okay, can you show us again what route you took?
So when I entered, and I went through here, and then when I stopped after that, and then went after, I kept going through here,
Okay.
down this side.
Okay, and did you guys, did anything happen to make you stop?
Yes, the police officer was pulling over the car again, down over here.
And you're pointing to some red hash marks
Yes,
off of Pine Tree?
yes.
Okay. And so you saw the officer pulling the same vehicle over?
Yes.
And then what happened?
And when the officer got out, and he told the guy to get back in his car, the person who it was. And the shots went off.
Okay. So how many shots did you hear, Audrey?
4.
Were they all together, or was there any?
The last one was kind of a few seconds later.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
The last one was a few seconds later.
Okay, now when you heard the shots, can you show the jury where you were?
We were around here.
Okay. And so after you heard the shots, what did you do?
My dad got out of the car, and I think he was going to go down and check on him. So I was just kind of a little scared. And then my dad came over to my side, and we just traded places.
Okay. And then what happened then?
And then we drove right through here and stopped to make sure he was okay. And someone was already helping him, so we went home.
Okay. Okay. You can go ahead and get back to the witness stand. Thank you. So, Aubrey, now you said, I want to make sure that I understand your testimony. You said that you stopped because you heard the shots?
So we had stopped right as I saw them stop right
The
there.
officer doing?
He was gesturing to his gun and putting his hand forward in front of him. And then on the last shot, he turned around and laid on the floor.
You laid on the ground?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Did you ever see anybody get out of the car that had been stopped?
No.
Okay. Did you ever hear, or did you ever see anybody else besides Officer Benner? In other words, you said you didn't see anybody get out of the car, right?
Well,
Okay, let me back up. I confused you. So you saw Officer Benner get out of his car.
yes.
Okay. And the car that had been stopped, did you see anybody get out of that car?
I didn't see the person.
Okay. Did you see any movement from the car?
Yes.
What did you see?
The door open.
Okay. And then was that before or after the shots?
Before.
Okay. And then what happened after the last shot?
The door slammed and the car took off.
Okay. Just 1 second, Your Honor. Sorry. Okay. Okay, can I approach the witness to sister? We're going to look at different exhibits. 27. I'll pull this back down. Alphabetical order. I mean, not alphabetical. 27. Okay. 27, right? Okay. That doesn't work anymore. So, looking at that exhibit, can you tell from that exhibit where you guys were when you heard the shots?
Yes.
Can you describe where, using that exhibit, where you were?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So what I'd like you to do, Exhibit 27. If I could have her just step down, Your Honor, one more time, I'm sorry. Could you come over to the... This is a closer up. Can you orient yourself and see where this is on this map here? Okay, so on this, can you show the jury where you guys stopped?
We stopped around here.
Okay. So that would be about two lengths back, or 2 rows of parking back?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the probably not good at distances. Okay. So from here, what direction were you facing? Do you remember? Okay. So back to where you see. Abria, after you saw that, what did you guys do? What did you and your dad do?
We traded places,
Mm-hmm.
and we drove to the next column of parking over and went through there and stopped for a few seconds to see if the officer was being helped, and he was, and we left.
Okay, you left. Where did you go?
We went back out to the exit where the Arby's is, onto Southern.
Did y'all go home?
We did.
Okay. At some point, did you have to give a statement to somebody at a place called a safe house?
Yes.
Okay. And have you had to give any other statements since then?
Yes.
And who have you given statements to?
To you and the defense.
How had you ever seen anything like this before?
No.
How has it affected you?
Greatly.
Can you give the jury an idea of how?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Have you had to have any counseling because of this?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Is there a reason why you didn't stay at the scene?
I don't know.
Do you have a moment? I'll pass the witness.
Is it okay if I move this, Judge?
Hey, Ms. Watson. I'm just going to ask you a couple questions, okay? You just left off talking about how you gave a couple of statements about what happened or what you saw this evening, right? Or that evening.
Yes.
Okay. And you recall that from the statements that you gave us, at this scene, you saw a lady by this Jeep, right?
Yes.
A female that you described that was in the area of the Jeep, and you didn't know how she got there.
Yes.
And in fact, you and your father talked about the female by the Jeep when the shots rang out, didn't you?
Yes.
And your father and you, in some detail, talked about what you just saw when you were driving home, did you not?
No.
When you got home.
Yes.
And you described to your mom, along with your dad, what you had just seen go down at the Albertsons.
Yes.
And one of the things that you described was...
Objection, hearsay.
This is the witness, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, could you approach?
You may.
Discussing with your mother, you yourself saying that you saw this woman standing by the Jeep when the shots rang out, right?
I don't remember.
Okay. Would seeing your interview help you recall that information?
Yes.
Okay. May I approach the witness, Your Honor? Page 35. Don't read it out loud, just read it to yourself and see if that helps you remember, okay? Does that help you remember, Miss Watson?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to read it to you and see if this helps you, okay? I don't remember it all, but I saw just a lady
Your Honor,
there.
I'm sorry, but I believe this is improper impeachment. I think the next step would be to ask her another question if her memory has been refreshed.
Your Honor, she says she can't. Maybe approach. The question being asked of you at this pretrial interview, and I'll hand this to you so you could read it. Do you remember what she looked like or from where she came? And then go ahead and read your answer right there under AW.
No, I don't remember at all, but I know I saw myself, just a lady there. I don't know how she got there.
Okay. So there was a lady there that you recall standing by the Jeep,
Yes.
and you don't know how she got there.
Yes.
May I have a moment, Your Honor? Nothing further, Judge. Thank you.
So, Aubrey, if I understand your testimony in response to Ms. Leos's question, you do recall seeing a girl at some point?
Yes.
And you saw that girl, according to your earlier testimony, before the shots were fired?
Can you say that again?
Did you see the girl before the shots were fired?
I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Aubrey, can you step down? Is she self-contained from the side? Can
No, Your Honor, thank you.
you step down within the courtroom or outside? You stay behind the door.
Stay close, Jonah Watson.
Mr. Watson, let me swear you in, okay? Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth and the penalty of law?
I do.
Go ahead, take a seat. You don't need to get up to the microphone or microphone.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Watson.
Afternoon.
Mr. Watson, could you please spell your first and last name for the record?
JONAHWATSON.
Mr. Watson, do you have children?
Yes, I have 4, a newborn just 4 months ago.
Okay. And you have a daughter named Aubrey Watson?
Yes,
How old is Aubrey?
she's 17 now.
Okay. Did you have anything to do with helping her learn how to drive? Were you part of that process?
Yes.
Describe that for the jury. What part did you play in that?
When she started going to driving school, I just helped her drive around, just watching her.
Okay. Was there some kind of requirement to go with her and help her drive, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall Memorial Day last year?
Yes.
Where were you guys living? I mean, what city were you living in?
And Rio Rancho.
Okay. And are you familiar with the Country Club Plaza?
Yes.
How far away from the Country Club Plaza is your house?
I would say about less than a mile away.
What all is in the Country Club Plaza?
There was a grocery store, a discount store, pet store, restaurant, a couple of restaurants, and a fast food place.
And last Memorial Day, did you and your family do anything special for Memorial Day?
We just had a barbecue.
Okay. And did you have any occasion to leave your house to go anywhere?
Yes, we went to go get, I believe it was dessert.
And who is we?
Oh, me and Aubrey, we left, and she was driving.
Okay. And did she drive the whole way?
Yes, she drove the whole way to the store.
Okay. Do you recall where you parked?
Yeah, in front of I think it was the southern entrance of Albertsons.
Okay. Do you recall what direction your vehicle was facing?
I think it was facing south.
Okay. When you first went into Albertsons, did you notice anything unusual when you went inside?
No,
Okay. About how long do you think you were in the store?
maybe about 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay. And when you came out, was there anything unusual that you noticed?
When I came out, no. I just we just got into the van.
Okay. And when you got into the van, again, who was driving?
Aubrey was driving.
Aubrey was driving? Okay. And what was your intent? Where were you going to go at that point?
We were gonna head out towards the intersection where there was a stoplight.
Okay, so were you going home?
Yes, we were going home.
Okay.
Yes.
So, before you, well, when Aubrey started the car, was there anything that caught your eye?
Yeah, I saw a car pulled over by an officer.
Okay. Could you look in the binder in front of you and see if you can locate exhibits 126 through 130? And specifically, on one, I think it's, if you could look at those and see if there's one that shows you a view of what you saw when you got into the van with Aubrey.
Yes, we were driving in the direction of Arby's and
I'm sorry, what exhibit number are you looking at?
at 126. And we noticed that there was like a truck kind of parked in front of this bush right here, and then the officer's SUV was behind it.
Now, are you talking about the bush to the front part of that island?
Yes.
Okay. And while you were did you observe any interaction happening between the car that was pulled over and the officer?
We just saw that I just saw the officer was standing on the passenger side near the front and looking into the windshield area.
Okay. Could you hear any conversations going on?
No.
Okay. Could you hear any voices at all?
No.
Okay. And so at that point, did Aubrey start to drive?
Yes, we just took a left and we're headed north.
Okay. Could you, I believe if you look at exhibit, is there an exhibit there that shows you what direction you were headed? The 127.
127. I mean, I could see the direction we were going from here in 127. And it was just, we were going north of the Arby's.
Okay. What about 128? Take a look at 128.
Mm-hmm. Just, yeah, we were just going in this path past the road past the Arby's.
Headed in what direction?
North.
Okay. And then the next one would be 129?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, towards the...
Okay, there appears to be some mailboxes there to the right.
Yes.
When you were driving in that direction, did anything happen to cause Aubrey to stop?
Yes, she pulled over, and I asked her why she pulled over, and she...
Objection here, sir.
She,
Your Honor, I believe it's not offered for the truth, it's offered to show what he did in response.
You can see why she stopped. Without-
What, do you know why she stopped?
Yes,
Without saying what she said.
she saw something, she saw the truck coming up behind us really quick.
Which truck are you talking about?
The suspect's truck.
And did you see it also?
No.
Okay, did you,
I saw it go by.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And how fast was it going?
It was going pretty fast. I would say maybe 30, 40 miles an hour maybe.
Okay. And what about the officer's car? Did you see that officer's car doing anything in response?
I saw it go by too soon afterwards, and it was going just as fast.
Okay. And then what did you all do at that point when you saw that?
Well, we observed them go through the parking lot and head east, so we thought they were gone, so we just proceeded to go towards kind of like the long way home, and so we headed towards the post office as well too.
Okay. And which post office is that?
The Rio Rancho post office.
Okay. On Pine Tree?
Yes.
Okay. If you could pull up 416. Mr. Watson, I'm going to show you a video that shows a video of the overhead of the view of the parking lot, and I want you to tell me if you can describe, looking at that video, what path you took.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see it on your screen? 416.
This cleanup is down.
It's down?
You can see the,
Oh,
All
okay.
right. Yeah.
Mr. Watson, is
I
that
forgot.
screen working there for you?
It is, but there's something in the way of it.
Go to B, please. Can you go to B, please? Okay. Does that show the path that you took? It keeps blinking. Okay, could you pause it for a sec? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, now, where, it's blinking, it's driving me crazy. Okay, can you show the jury, here, where's the, may I approach the witness?
Oh, this one?
No, it won't work on there. Can you just, using this,
Mm-hmm.
show where you guys were when you first started? I mean, when you first saw the car pulled over?
We were right.
Somewhere in there, that area?
Yeah, right here.
And was your car facing in the direction of Arby's?
Yes.
Okay. And then could you show what path you took at that point?
Yes, we went just north of Arby's. And around this area.
I'm sorry, Mr. Watson, since the technology isn't cooperating, why don't you step down with the judge's permission? And maybe it's easier to show in the diagram here. Could you come with your pointer? What?
I see step around, sorry.
If you could stand to one side or the other so that the jury can all see. Could you start out, show them first where you were parked when you...
Yeah, we were parked in this area. And then we headed this way towards the...
So you're headed towards the Arby's?
Yeah.
Okay, and then what?
We noticed them right here, the suspect and officer, and we headed towards in this general area, towards I guess the Dollar General area right here.
Okay. Now, is that, you said that you were on your way home.
Mhm.
So where would you have normally exited?
If I was driving,
Well, that day, where did you plan on exiting?
well, with her, we were gonna exit at the stop light.
And you're pointing down to Southern and Pine Tree?
Yes, we were gonna go that way.
Okay. And that day, what path did you take? Can you show us could you go ahead and,
Yeah, well, we went this way, and we headed this way, and this was the area where they passed us. And
Can you use the pointer? I don't think they can all see it. You know.
Oh.
okay. We headed this way, and this is the area where they passed us. And they continued to go this way, and we've kind of followed this way. And it was about here in this area where we stopped, because they had stopped. We were gonna head down this way towards the stoplight, towards our house, which is down that way.
And what made you first stop? Why did you stop?
Oh, because they stopped here. We saw they had stopped, so we didn't want to get in the way of the traffic stop, so we just kind of hung out right here.
Okay. And was Aubrey still driving?
She was still driving.
Okay, and then when you stopped, did anything happen after that? That caught your attention?
Yes. I saw the door open on the vehicle, and I saw the officer get out of his car. He probably got out of his car first, and then he was approaching the vehicle from the driver's side. And that's when I heard the shots, 4 shots, and I saw him kind of get spun around a little, and he crashed.
Can you go ahead and take the witness stand again? Thank you. So, when you say he was approaching the other car, did you get an idea of how close he got to the other car?
Maybe about to the back of the car, maybe about 5-10 feet.
Did you see any interaction between Officer Benner and anyone in the car?
No, I didn't hear anything or hear him say anything, but he was looking at her and kind of, put his hand out, and he turned around towards the truck, and that's when the shots came out.
Did you see any movement from the vehicle at all? I mean, I'm sorry, the suspect's vehicle.
I just saw the top part of the door, the driver's side door open. Mm-hmm. From where we were, we could kind of look. We were looking down a little bit upon it.
Okay. So after you saw the officer collapse, what happened? What did you notice next?
It was soon afterwards that we saw a car come up and a man jump out, and we saw him attending to the officer.
Okay. And was your daughter still in the driver's seat when you saw Officer Benner get shot?
Yes, we were a little in shock.
How was your daughter acting?
She was crying, and I didn't know what to do. So as soon as we saw someone, well, I was thinking about going down there, but I didn't know if the other person there was the one that was shooting. I didn't know what was going on because we weren't that close to the scene, but.
So what was your main concern at that point?
Was not to be in the middle of the shootings.
Okay. Well, for your daughter's safety?
Yes.
So did you go home after that?
Well, I got her out of the driver's seat and put her in the passenger seat, and we drove home. Not sure what was going on, or who was involved, or
When you got home, did you all talk about what had happened?
Well, we did talk about what had happened, but we just explained what happened to my wife, and we just kind of more like consoling my daughter.
Did you share details with each other to compare notes of what y'all saw?
No, not really. She was crying and a little inconsolable, and we were just telling her it's all right, and you didn't trade details.
At some point, though, you did give a statement to the police.
Mm-hmm.
How did that come about?
Well, after he tried to console our daughter and she calmed down, I walked to see if what was going on. I walked towards the post office, and they had it all blocked off. And there was neighbors around, and they were talking, and they told me that the police had talked with them. And I told them what I had seen, and one of my neighbors told me that he would tell the officers that what I had seen, what I had witnessed. And I said, yes, do that, because I was still, worried about my daughter, and I just wanted to make sure she was okay.
One moment, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Watson. We'll pass the witness.
Good afternoon, Mr. Watson. May I move the chart? Thanks, Ron. Mr. Watson, this must have been a terrible thing for you, right?
Yes.
And it's something that that you've been asked to detail several times, is it not?
Yes.
And you seem like a man of integrity to me, and you would want to tell as much detail as you possibly could to the police, right?
Yes.
And you have no involvement in this case other than to tell what you remembered, right?
Yes.
And you have no involvement in this other than to make sure that you relay as truthfully as you can what you saw, right?
Yes.
And I know that from the beginning, from the very beginning, when you talked to the police, you were careful to give as much detail as you remembered at that moment in time, right?
Yes.
Yes. And the police talked to you very, very shortly after this, right?
Yes.
So let me, before we get to all the times you've talked to the police or the statements you've given, I want to do the run-up to it and the details and the clarity of view and these sort of things, okay? So you described to the jury on this afternoon, on this evening, you were teaching your daughter to drive, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Had she done a whole lot of driving before?
She had done some driving.
Okay.
She had been in school.
So perhaps it wasn't as nerve-wracking this time as it might have been the first time she was attempting to drive, right?
Speculation.
I'm asking him if he knows whether it was as nerve-wracking this time as it was. So was it as nerve-wracking?
Objection. I didn't hear a rule.
So you've driven with your daughter before, right?
Yes.
And you wanted to ensure that she knew how to drive, right, before she turned her loose on the street by herself.
Yes.
And on this occasion, was she a seasoned enough driver that you were worried about her every movement?
No,
Okay.
I wasn't worried.
So you were able to kind of pay attention to your surroundings rather than watching her every moment, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And do you wear glasses?
Yes.
Did you have your glasses on that day?
I had my contacts on.
Okay. So nothing would have impaired your ability to see on the day in question, right? Nothing physical. You didn't have on
No.
mirrored shades or like one contact popped out in one end or something like that.
No.
Right? You had both of your prescription contacts in.
Yes.
Right? And there wasn't anything about your vehicle like a cracked window or spider webs on the window, or your window wasn't too terribly filthy that you couldn't see out, right?
No.
Okay. And you've described for the jury where you were in relationship to where where ultimately you witnessed Officer Benner get shot, right?
Yes.
And the jury's seen it on the map, but on the diagram. But you said before that you were about between 200 and 300 feet away, right?
Yes.
Okay, and that hasn't changed, right? That's a pretty good in your mind, a pretty good speculation about how far away you were, right?
Yeah, that's how much I guess.
Yeah, and you never went back and did it with a tape or anything,
No.
but you're pretty good with distances, right?
It was just a guess.
Enough that 200 to 300 feet seemed accurate to you at the time,
At the time, yes.
and now that still seems accurate, right?
About 200. It was a good guess, I guess.
Okay. And nothing's changed your mind. Nobody said, Mr. Aubrey, you were wrong. It was 50 feet or it was 1,000 yards. Nothing like that, right?
No.
Okay. And you described for the jury where your cars were positioned and why you stopped where you did, right?
Yes.
And where you stopped where you did, were you looking out the passenger side window or were you looking out the front windscreen or the front windshield? Like when you were looking toward the officer's vehicle?
I was looking through the windshield, yeah, on the passenger side.
And you've described that you were in the parking lot, and so you had a relatively clear vantage, right? It wasn't obscured by trees or buildings or bushes, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, before you talked to the police and gave a recorded statement, you consoled your daughter and you talked with your wife about what you'd seen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you walked back to a country club plaza there in Rio Rancho, and you told some of the bystanders that you'd seen some things, right?
Yes.
And without getting into what they might have said to you, you relayed to them that you were available to talk to the police, right?
Yes.
Okay. And as a result, the police contacted you, and your daughter Aubrey went and gave an interview at what's called the Safe House, right?
Yes.
And you went to the police station and you gave a recorded interview, did you not?
Not that night, no.
But later on.
Yes.
Okay. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that took place on June 2nd, 2015, right?
It took place sometime afterwards, yeah.
Okay. If I showed you a transcript that has the date typed on top of it, would that help refresh your recollection?
Yeah.
Okay. May I approach with you? Just take a look right there.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay. So I've shown you a date at the top of a typed transcript. Assuming you have no reason to believe that I've changed the date, did that say June 2nd?
Yes.
And do you have any reason to believe that it wasn't June 2nd when you talked to the police?
No.
Okay. And this terrible incident happened on the 31st, right? On the evening of the 31st?
It happened on Memorial Day, whatever day that was.
Okay. And so a few days later you go in and you talk to the police, right?
Yes.
And you knew when you went in to talk to the police that you wanted to make sure to give them as detailed information as you could, right?
Yes.
And they actually told you, well, without getting into what the police told you, you knew that you were to be as detailed and as clear as you could about what you'd seen only a short time before, right?
Yes.
And nothing happened in between the day of this horrible incident and when you went to talk to the police that would have clouded your memory some.
Get everything.
Okay. But when you talked to the police, nobody was telling you what to say. You were
No.
giving your version of events, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you've testified here today, right?
Yes.
Okay. And since the day you gave your statement to the police, your first statement to the police back on June 2nd of 2015, you've seen quite a bit of news on this, right?
I have.
Yeah, and in fact, you know, you learned after you gave your first statement that a man was actually arrested for the shooting of the officer, right?
Yes.
Okay, and you learned that the man that was arrested was Andrew Romero, right?
Yes.
Okay, but when you gave your first statement to the police, you had no idea. gave